everyone, and welcome to Cook the Book from Cocina Media, where we invite Latin chefs over to make a recipe from one of their cookbooks. I'm Xorje Olivares, and today I'm excited because I'm joined by writer, chef, TV host, all-around badass, if you ask me, Monti Carlo, whose forthcoming book is called Spanglish from Simon & Schuster. It will be out on May 19th, now available for pre-order. But Monty, I'm excited because one, I feel like Spanglish, I always say, is my first language.
Yes.
Not English, not Spanish, Spanglish. And I feel like it is a wonderful opportunity for people who are Latino identified, not necessarily even Puerto Rican identified, but like people who understand the bridge between two cultures and how you can best express yourself when you exist in this bridge. So excited to not only talk about the book, but to make one of the recipes you have. So thank you so much for cooking the book with me.
Okay, are you serious? I will cook the book with you every day of the week.
Yeah, let's cook the book all the time. I don't want, before we get started into one of the actual recipes, I want to call attention to the beautiful banner you have behind me, behind you actually. Can you let us know what it says?
This says you can't say American without the Rican. We've been citizens since 1917. Just an FYI for all of the people that were so bent when Benito played the Super Bowl or when the Super Bowl happened during Benito's show. Hello, we're American. We have been American for many, many moons now, over 100 years. And that's part of my book. It's to really educate people on why they should stop thinking of us as other. Because we're here. We're here.
Yeah, I think one of the most beautiful parts, not only with the Super Bowl and Bad Bunny's performance, but in the aftermath, is the unification of cultures and communities that have Latinidad tied to them. So whether you were Boricua, Dominicano, Mexicano, anybody who has ties to Latin America, there was this just joy and excitement to be as one. So I'm glad that you not only have that flag, but that you have that in everything you do, because I feel like Latinidad and being Puerto Rican, it comes comes naturally to you, doesn't it?
Bobby, we're born waving a flag, okay? Like Puerto Ricans love Puerto Rico so much. It is an integral part of who we are, at least of all the Puerto Ricans I've ever met and hung out with. You know, it's just, it has a lot to do with the fact that we used to not be able to wave our flag. You could get arrested for waving our flag. So that part has produced generations of Puerto Ricans who are all about standing up for their island and saying, yo soy puertorriqueño para que tú lo sepas.
So something that was interesting during the Bad Bunny performance, and I'll use this to tie into the book, is that he waved the flag that was illegal, as you said, where it was to wave, which is the one that had the lighter blue tone to it. But there's something about color, there's something about vibrancy that I think it goes hand in hand with Latinidad. And it goes with your book too, because the cover is stunning with color. Can you just show our viewers and our listeners look at that. That's wonderful fuchsia pink, and then even the kind of navy blue that it's behind. Talk about just the packaging of Spanglish and how you wanted it to reflect who you identify as.
Well, one of the most important things to me about the book was that it not be a typical touristy color palette. I wanted to truly reflect what it's like to live on the island and live outside of the island in the diaspora, where you're kind of grasping for your culture. So I wanted those deep, vibrant colors that also talk a lot about our culture, our land, vibrant greens, vibrant browns, beautiful deep aqua blues to reflect the ocean. And I talk a lot about actually the color palette in the book. Thank you for noticing, Jorge. Am I going to fall in love with you before the end of this? I feel like that. Yes?
I hope so.
Let's go. Okay.
Well, especially because you and I have so much in common, and that's something that we'll get through in the course of our conversation. But the one thing I want to kind of pull from our conversation so far is this idea of the mixture of identity and just livelihood that we have when you identify as somebody who's Latino, but also kind of squarely American. And that word mixture, which in Spanish is mezcla, is going to help me bring us to the recipe that you and I are going to cook with today,
Just
which
saying.
is your, look at that, the mezcla deviled eggs, which, by the way, I want to note to folks who are going to purchase the book and will have the book, that there are some really badass combinations that you have here, like hibiscus baked beans. What? Like, there's such a wonderful mezcla between what we understand as people who are Latin American. So tell me, before we get even to the mechanics of making these mezcla deviled eggs, why you wanted to include this in your book.
I mean, Spanglish was written out of a necessity. It started out as just a necessity to find a space for myself. Okay. Because, as you know, when you're growing up between two worlds, as many Latinos are, who are in the diaspora or who are second generation or first generation, you're not really ever enough for either or, right? You're, you're never like, I was never truly Puerto Rican enough for everyone because my Spanish was kind of mangled. And I was never continental American enough for the people that I grew up with because I talk too loud, I use my hands, you know, I look aggressive sometimes, but really it's just the Puerto Rican in me. You know, people are shouting and I'm like, I'm really not. Like, that's just how we talk, Papa.
Yep.
Yes. So for me, I never felt I was really fully in the room with either culture. And so I found my way in the space between through cooking. And I first did that on a show called MasterChef with Gordon Ramsay 158 years ago. Really, I found the meaning of life on a cutting board. It was so beautiful to me that you could dream up a recipe no matter what. It didn't have to already exist. You didn't have to follow rules. You could just literally dream it up, gather the ingredients, and test it out and see if it worked. And if it didn't work, you don't quit because you got to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Going. And for me, that phrase, keep going, is what got me to this book, Spanglish.
Yeah, I love that, especially on MasterChef, which you were part of the top five. You have this wonderful relationship with Gordon Ramsay, the host of that show. He wrote the foreword to your book, Spanglish, which is kind of fantastic. Which, let's detour there and talk about just knowing that he celebrates you as a chef and that he wants the world to know just how such high regard that he holds you.
He's really the most incredible human being. I mean, he stood up to me on that show so many times because when I went on that show, I really wasn't an incredible cook, to keep it real. You know, I had, not to get too deep, but I had just gone through a really hardcore divorce and I had lost all of my money and I was living in LA and I couldn't pay rent and I was facing homelessness with a 2-year-old child in LA. And one of my friends who lived upstairs was like, if you try out for a reality show, they have to give you $50. And the very next day, there was a show that I had never seen called MasterChef. I barely knew who Gordon Ramsay was. I just knew that every time I saw him in a commercial, he was like covered in fire. Like, that's all, you know? And so I was like, I'm going to try out for this show. And I was so broke at the time that I didn't have food in the house to bring. You have to bring a plate. You have to put yourself on a plate. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? I had just bought some apples for my kiddo, and I had some flour and some butter and some cream for my coffee, and I made the tiniest little apple pies. And long story short, the producers loved the pies. They loved that I was a complete wreck in front of the cameras. They broke it down to me that there was no $50 in the mix, which was a shock, but that I could win $250,000. And then I was like, okay, this is a way out of a really bad situation for my kid and I. So I spent the next 2.5 months teaching myself how to cook with dollar store veggies and dollar store ingredients. And then I hit the competition. And I really do feel that Gordon Ramsay just connecting with me from the jump. He was just very, very kind to me. And maybe it was because I was always messing things up. I mean, I set fire to his kitchen 3 times.
Which just shows how excited and passionate you were to make the food.
Or didn't really know how to work my way in a professional kitchen.
Which is fine though, because now you're working in the comfort of your own kitchen, as I am, as somebody who doesn't always spend a lot of time in my kitchen. I'm happy that you've brought me into my kitchen to really do something hands on. So we are talking about making these mezcla deviled eggs. I think I would say, even as somebody who's not Puerto Rican, I would say like this is something that I could put on a plate that would feel very much like me and how I grew up. So I will note that I have water boiling to make these eggs. You've already had a chance to do that, but tell me a little bit about the early processes to make this one specific dish.
Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to take your eggs and I want you to put them in the
Mhm.
boiling water, but I don't want you to throw them in on helter skelter. If you have a ladle or a big spoon, look at you, puppy. Ready? Let's go. Put them in that water and
Okay.
turn off the heat once they're all in the water and cover the pot.
Okay. Okay.
And
Wait,
when
so I just
go
want to
ahead.
double check. So I'm putting the eggs inside and I'm
See,
leaving them on the burner, or I'm taking it off the burner?
you're gonna leave it on the burner. As soon as all the eggs are inside that water, you're gonna turn off the heat and you're gonna cover the pot. And those eggs are gonna still be in that boiling water, um,
Hmm.
but they're gonna slow boil because now they're not boiling anymore. Now they're kind of doing a soft simmer, and that's gonna ensure that you don't get that weird grayish blue line. Do you know what I mean? When
Ooh,
you,
yes.
yes, that's
Okay, this is helpful. I know. So the recipe, at least the one you have that feeds six, calls for 18 eggs. Unfortunately, I don't think I have a pot that fits 18 eggs, so I'm going to do a little bit a smaller amount if that's okay.
yeah. Let's go.
Okay, so I'm going to put let's put like
Do
a half a dozen. Let's try
no,
this out.
do 8 eggs because one will always crack. I'm just putting that out there.
Love the care
Ready,
and the precaution.
ready, Jorge.
I know. Ooh, okay. So I'm putting the eggs into the boiling water.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of different techniques for boiling eggs when you want to make a deviled egg. It's always best to start with older eggs because as an egg ages, the egg peels away from the shell naturally as it absorbs air. There's going to be a little bit of an air bubble at the tippy top. Another
Okay.
thing that you can do when you're getting ready to make deviled eggs to set your container, your egg carton, on the side for the night at room temperature, and that's going to
Ah,
the yolk is towards the middle. Some people like to put a little baking soda in the water. I don't, but if you want to try it, a little teaspoon of baking soda in the water supposedly helps make the eggs peel easier. But
okay.
honestly, the trick to deviled eggs and peeling them without fussing them up is patience. You just can't rush it. You know what I mean? You can do all the
I
tricks.
know. I feel like that's something that's always been a problem for me. Is I think I get too impatient. I'm like, oh, let me just take off all this, and it never works out. But I'm excited to see how today's is going to work out, especially with your guidance. I think that might be exactly what I need.
Great.
So
So, what
I'm
are they in?
there in. I have turned off the burner, so they will be
You covered
simmering,
it.
and I've
Okay.
covered it, and I'm going to
Set
do
it
that for.
for like 12 minutes.
Okay, perfect. I may do it on my phone because, like most people who rely a lot on their phone, I will be using my timer on my phone. As we kind of have this moment to wait around for the eggs to get ready, tell me a bit about the fact that this is something that has a lot of childhood memories tied for you, and maybe why this was something that you knew. If I'm going to put out a book, can't forget these deviled eggs.
Every Puerto Rican knows sandwichitos de mezcla. They're a part of our culture that's deeply ingrained. They weren't always a part of our culture, obviously. I mean, we're talking about some pretty processed foods that go into this recipe. Those processed foods came to the island after the occupation in 1898, the US occupation. So I think we had a blender was invented in 1922. That made it to the island. And then sliced bread was invented a few years later in 1928. Then that came to the island. Then Spam was invented in 37. And let me tell you,
I love Spam so much. I feel like Spam has been involved in my life since I can remember eating food. So seeing that ingredient as part of the recipe made me so excited.
well, I mean, it's perfect for an island where the power, and still to this day, the power goes out almost daily. Look, mira, yo también.
Look at us with our Spam.
We love it. But it's great for an island where you never know if your power is going to go out, to have canned goods. When in the mid-century, when ultra processed foods and processed foods became very popular in the U.S. and they were shipped to the island, it was immediately taken up as part of our cuisine because they were affordable and they could stay and surpass. They could withstand being out at high temperatures and without power. And then when they invented Cheese Whiz in the 50s, everything came together. Now, no one actually knows when the recipe for mezcla sandwiches was invented, but it was towards the mid-century when they started showing up at birthday parties and family get-togethers and school functions. And it's a recipe that it's one of my very first memories as a child was, my mom and her sisters, my tias, they would get together for bochinche, for the gossip. They're talking that gossip. Back then it was okay.
Which you have to do. As food is being had, you have to have conversation and really juicy conversation.
It's true. So they would sit around with their bochinche and my mom would hand out these platters of, like little appetizers. And these sandwichitos is what we call them. Sandwichitos or sandwiches de mezcla were part of it. And the first time I had one, because I've always been a little pig, I grabbed like 2 others and put them in my pockets so I could go and eat them in the corner because they went so fast. Literally, it was and they were gone. So I was like, I need to grab these. And that was one of my first memories, was sitting in a corner like a little weirdo, just like eating this is so good.
I feel like I was always the child that they knew they had to save extra for, because I just was such a comelon that they're like, Jorge probably wants some more of those. Let's make sure we set some off to the side. Yeah. I love that there's a storied history of food in your family. If I'm not mistaken, your mom was a restaurant owner and had the ability to really showcase the culinary background she had to everybody else. Talk about that experience of growing up with that being part of your journey.
Okay, you know so much about me. That is such an honor. Thank you so much. My mother was living in Atlanta and I was living in Atlanta as well. I still am. I just moved back. But this was around 2000, and she decided to open up a Caribbean restaurant in a suburb of northern Atlanta because there were no Caribbean restaurants. There were barely Mexican restaurants here. And she wanted to bring her culture and her flavors to this town that she loved very much. And so she opened up an old Pizza Hut. It was called the Caribbean Grill. And we did pretty well until September 11th, 2001. And once that happened, the economy crashed. It was just an ugly time for restaurants across the board. And she kept going for a while, but really it got to the point where she was looking at the spreadsheets after every shift and being like, I don't know if this is going to work. And then out of nowhere, the people from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that do dining reviews and restaurant reviews came in without her knowing, and they ordered everything. And next thing you know, there's a review in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which is the biggest newspaper in the South, for her restaurant. And it was this glowing review about this cuisine that, is difficult to find here, and how awesome it was, and how her portions were insane. Latina moms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serve me more.
Oh, yeah, yes. Here's an entire box of all the things, So, literally, bro, she used to make sandwiches with a half a loaf of bread. That's real talk. And so the cops, the workers would come in because it was something that they could eat and not pay that much money for and be stuffed all day and have leftovers. So, after that review ran, the very next day, it was pandemonium. We sold out of everything. She freaked out. She closed the doors, which I had to be like, you can't close the doors during service.
Yeah.
You can't close the doors. Like, she's like an old school Colombian lady. She's like, no, la voy a cerrar ya. Like, we're done.
Precious.
But I mean, it was beautiful to see that she would, at that time point in her life, she was in her 50s, and it was incredible to see her reach for her dream, her lifelong dream of having a restaurant. It's not easy to do when you've never done it before, and she really did put out some incredible dishes. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. I want to make note that your book says that it's not just recipes, it's recipes and stories. So like even hearing stories like this, stories of your journey as a chef, as somebody who's kind of devoted your life to food for the past few years. Tell me about the desire to make sure that folks knew who you were as a person, in addition to who you are as a chef and as somebody who knows how to make these recipes.
Thank you for asking that, Jorge. The book actually started out as a motivational speech for women in women's shelters, where I talked about my MasterChef story and how I made it to the show, and how it transformed my life to say yes to something that normally I would have not said yes to. How I, changed my life in my mid 30s from something I had, I was a radio personality and a comedian, and all of a sudden all I wanted to do was cook. And that speech I actually did in Puerto Rico right after Hurricane Maria for a group of women, maybe like 400 or 500 women, at an event to help female-owned businesses recover from the disaster that was Maria. And I got a standing ovation. The line to talk to me, I was talking to people for about 5 hours. It was crazy. And I was like, I think I have something here. I feel like I have something here. So at first the book was just going to be a memoir. But when I finally got my book deal at Simon and Schuster, my editor was like, I want you to add recipes to this because, it needs to be a cookbook. And she was so right. It was very difficult for me because I was working at a place where I had to cook like 5-6 recipes a week. So to also create recipes was so much work. So it took
That's a lot.
Yeah, it took me a minute, Jorge. It took me a minute to book. It's been in the works for almost a decade. But I really love how it turned out. It's in 3 parts, and I talk about leaving Puerto Rico, which is a big deal for a lot of people. It's, when you leave the island, it really leaves a mark. I talk about coming to America, to the continental US, because Puerto Ricans are American. They, and, not speaking the language, and some of the things that happened when I started school here. I was not a very well-behaved child. I might have pulled a knife on my teacher and had, it was
It's because you knew you were going to be a chef.
Save it. You're right.
It was just projection into your future self. You needed to know what the utensils were.
It was one of those little tiny white plastic knives. She broke my favorite Donkey Kong Jr. pencil, and I was like, I didn't even know how to say it. So I was like, I'm going to kill you. Like, it was a hot mess city. But I talk about that, and then I talk about all of the events that led to me discovering who I am through food. And it's my hope that you don't have to be Puerto Rican to enjoy these recipes or to enjoy these stories or see yourself in these stories. Really, what you do have to be is someone that is third culture or bicultural, or someone that just doesn't feel like they always fit in the room that they're in. Because for me, and for many people, cooking and food is just such a beautiful language that makes you always feel complete and whole and at home.
You did mention the fact that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution was able to showcase and celebrate your mom's restaurant so many years ago. You now actually work at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, leading their food and dining section. Talk about like that full circle, oh my God moment of being at the source of so much joy for your family.
It is absolutely bananas. I'm still pinching myself. I just started working here about a month ago. Um, I'm still in shock. For me, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution was the paper that, I read every day. That saved my mother's restaurant. It's something that I talk about when on Instagram in one of my stories about how important it was to have them save my mother's restaurant the way that they did with their reviews. So when they called me and were like, "Hey, we like what you've got. Like, let's talk," I was shocked. One, because I'd never been, a newspaper editor. I'd always done digital media, but that's what they were transferring. They were going from a paper to a digital media platform. So we went through many, many interviews, and I got the job. I'm so Puerto Rican, bro. When when the lady when my boss Janelle called me to tell me that I got the job, I just started crying. Like,
Aww.
I know, because it meant so much to me to be able to return to Atlanta, a place that I truly love very much. And it's only a short flight to Puerto Rico from here. Instead of, in LA where I was, it is all of the flight. Hey, we're ready.
Huevos are ready.
Let's go, huevos.
So let me make sure that I do this process right, from removing the eggs from the boiling water for the pot. Now I need to, and I apologize that I'm not at that step yet. So I would put ice and water in a bowl and
Keep
transfer
the
them
eggs
here.
in the pot covered. And I want you to
Okay.
take some and put it in a bowl and fill the bowl with that ice.
Okay, let me see. Tell me if this is this an appropriate amount of ice to then put
Oh,
water?
por supuesto que no. Go for it. More ice.
More.
More ice.
Okay, here I go.
Mira, more ice.
So much chaos, but in the name of mezcla deviled eggs. How does this look?
Thanks, Papo. Now I want you to fill that bowl all just to that line where that rim starts with water, cold water.
So right here. Okay,
yes.
perfect. Okay, here we go.
And I took my
So
eggs.
I've put, perfect, okay.
Add our eggs to our water very gently. And I also did about 7 or 8 just in case one cracked. And look, one did crack.
It's like Diosito knew that we had to be prepared just in case.
Like I called it. Look at this.
Oh no!
Looks like Casper.
How often would you say you make either hard-boiled eggs or this particular recipe?
I mean, anytime I'm going to go to a cookout or any kind of get together where I have people over, it's just one of these recipes that's really easy to make ahead. You can make filling ahead of time, and then you can dress the eggs the day of. Or you can dress them, and if you have the right container for it, you can dress them and keep them in the fridge overnight. So you're just ready to go. And if you make sanguchitos de mezcla, one of the tricks that I do, because it's literally just the filling that we're using for this without the eggs, you make the little sandwich, you cut the crust off, and then you're going to brush a little bit of milk on the bread so it doesn't get dry and tough. Just a touch of milk. You don't want to soak it,
Okay. I'll say that I have specific memories of deviled eggs, at least in my family, and it always reminds me of Easter. So every time we would have some sort of celebration, family get together around Easter, my tia Evelyn, who is no longer with us, but I distinctly remember she would always kind of hoard the deviled eggs for herself because she knew not that many people would eat them. So I just have this like very vivid memory of my tia Evelyn with like a bowl of eggs and just saying like, "Don't worry, I've got them. You don't have to. This is mine. This is mine." So just to let folks know who are watching, now that the eggs are in the ice bath, how long do we want to make sure that they're there for?
We're going to leave them there for just a couple of minutes, just until they're cool enough to handle, and then we're going to start our peeling process.
Okay. So maybe like 5 minutes. Does that seem like a little?
I mean, pick one up and tell me if it's still hot.
Ooh, let's see. It's pretty cool. Kind
All
of cool to
right,
the touch.
let's get cracking.
Oh, okay.
I always
So let
use
me.
the back of a spoon, by the way, and I crack as much of the shell as possible. It just makes it easier to break off
Okay.
and peel off.
So let me make sure I have one of these eggs. Oh, it's nice and. It's not. Is it supposed to be super cold or just like cool enough that you know that it's been in the ice water?
Down. And then once you do that, it should come right off. You see?
Okay. Let's see how this goes. Let's see. Oh, this is the part I get so nervous about. Ah, okay.
Now the eggs are going to be a little jammy in the center. They're not going to be a hard boil. So you're going to want to be real gentle with them.
Okay. So just to show, I'm already taking off some of the cascara of the of the huevo.
Acá, cara.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of my favorite things to do because it's just very zen. And I just love cracking eggshells. You know that you can keep those eggshells, right? And use them.
Ooh, tell me what you can use them for, because I think the only thing I know, kind of harkening back to Easter, is to make cascarones for Easter celebration. But what do you normally use them for?
I take the shell and I wash it, and then I dry it in a 200-degree oven. And then I pulverize it in a blender until it's powder. And then I mix it with dish soap. And it is the best scrubber ever. It clears all of the stains out of your pots. Like the hardcore stains that you can't get out, it takes them out.
Oh, how fascinating.
Yes. You can also take the eggs and put them in water, the eggshells, and
Mm-hmm.
boil that water, bring it to a boil, and then cool the water, and then use that water to water your plants because the eggshells are primarily calcium, and it's wonderful for your plants.
Nice. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I did a little bit of a scary job with my first level.
I'm going to show you the trick. The trick is not to pick at it with your nail. It's to press it down with the side of your finger. So
Ooh, okay.
you're pressing it with the side of your finger instead of picking at it with your nail, and that'll help. And
That is a good tip.
make sure that you're really breaking that shell because it's when you have those large pieces
Mm-hmm.
that things get a little out of control. You can also peel them under running water. That helps as well because as soon as you open up the shell just a little bit, that water gets inside and helps loosen the shell from the egg.
Do you think part of it is also maybe just how aggressively I'm hitting it with the back of a spoon? Like, is there a technique with maybe hitting it?
I mean, one of the things that you can do if you don't want to hit it with the back of the spoon, you can also take the egg and roll it on your surface. You hear that?
Yeah.
That can get dangerous if you're too hard on it, though. But if you roll it, oh yeah, see, I have man hands, so
Well, I will say the technique you just shared about using the side of your finger is already helping significantly with this this Webbel I have currently.
You see that? Now ask me to do a simple math problem. I can tell you all the tips and tricks, but I can't do basic math. It's my least favorite thing about me.
This is why we have calculators, and this is why we have yeah, we know what our areas of expertise are.
Yeah, so it's all about just taking your time with the peel and really, you can do the surface roll, but you have to be so gentle. Like, look, I already messed this one up because I did it on the surface, but that's fine. We'll figure that out.
Yeah. I think that's some of the most beautiful part about doing food at home is like no one, with the exception of today, no one's really watching, and nobody really is kind of holding a magnifying glass to the things that we create. If it tastes good, if it was made with love, that sort of seems to be the guiding light here.
That is a great point. And if someone says anything and complains, you just don't invite them back.
You make a running list of like, this person was fun to cook for, this person maybe not so much.
Not so much. I've had those people. They feel like they're on a judges panel for Top Chef.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I'm sorry, did I just spend the afternoon cooking for you?
So I'm on my fourth egg. I'm excited because I feel like I am getting a little bit better with my shelling.
Hey, practice makes perfect, Papo.
It does, which is reminding me again for folks who are purchasing Spanglish and learning more about what to do when you make these recipes at home. I feel like it's the patience. Like that's the ingredient folks always forget about is the patience. Because I feel like that's what's deterred me a little bit from doing more things in the kitchen is I feel like I'm impatient with not only the process, but sometimes the end result when it doesn't come out exactly as I had hoped.
Yeah, but that's because you're a perfectionist, Jorge. And that's the most beautiful thing about cooking is it humbles you. It really does. And it
Mm-hmm.
also a beautiful experience to learn positive self-talk and to be proud of yourself for simply trying to do something that so many people no longer do. So
Mm-hmm.
I love the concept of your show. I think it's something that we need now more than ever is not just, Latino recipes, but just keeping people and getting them back to the kitchen. It's so important.
Yeah. Something that I regret is especially with that grandmother who always said "Tapate el pecho," and I feel like I have to say it with that kind of anger, is like you got to do that. Is she had a recipe for homemade tortillas de harina, and unfortunately, I never got it before she passed. And I think back to that, and I think back of like all the different meals, recipes, just these touchstones that we had that sometimes get lost to history. And so, to your point, like try your best to learn that recipe, to ask your mother, grandmother, whoever cooks in your household, the appropriate questions, so that way they're not artifacts of your life, that they are constant presences and can be constantly made.
I love that. It's a beautiful thing, and so many of us do lose our recipes, but it's also, recipes are never lost forever. They're only lost if you refuse to get in the kitchen and try to discover them, There's
Oh, yes.
to be discovered. You got to be very Indiana Jones about it.
I love that approach. So I just want to note that I've done 4. I still have 4 left. Do we want to move along just so that way?
Absolutely. While you do that, I'm going to take a blender. And if you don't have a blender, you can use a stick blender. If you don't have any blenders at all, what you need to do is go out and buy one because I don't know what you're doing. I feel like you need a blender in your life.
I just got a food processor that has made my life so much easier.
Right?
So okay. I hear you.
I have a fancy Vitamix. And what we're going to do now that our eggs are peeled, we're going to mix up our filling. So we're going to add our nacho cheese. I asked for nacho cheese in the recipe because some people are averse to Cheese Whiz, but you can use Cheese Whiz.
Mm-hmm.
Your own cheese if you want. Cheese, there's also vegan options as well when it comes to nacho cheese. You can make.
This is 1/4 of a cup of the nacho cheese, correct?
A 1/4 cup. And believe it or not, there are vegan eggs as well that you can make. You can literally do anything now with plant-based foods. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So this very not vegan recipe and make it plant-based. As long as we can source these ingredients, you can do it very easily.
So we got a 1/4 cup. So we're going to put this in the blender, in the processor, correct?
Then we're going to add our 1/4 cup of cream cheese. Uh, Try to have it be room temperature. That way, it's going to be easier to, blend.
Let me open my Philadelphia cream cheese.
Hey, let's go. And so the Philadelphia cream cheese have quarter cup measurements in there. So you're going to use 2 ounces. Is it 2 ounces? I feel like yes. Is it 3 ounces? I think it's 2 ounces.
For the cream cheese, you said?
It's like it's this big of a chunk.
Ooh, that's a good chunk.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
like
cream cheese. I feel like cream cheese, if I could use it in multiple areas of my life, I would.
cream cheese is amazing. It's one of the parts that I love. I grew up with Philadelphia cream cheese because I'm Puerto Rico. My grandparents bought cream cheese in like by the boxful. And they would make toast with cream cheese. Mira qué rico. Okay.
So just to remind folks, so in the blender or in our food processor so far, I've got the nacho cheese, I've got the cream cheese. What else do we need to add to our little mixture here?
Now we're gonna add a half a block of Spam. Spam comes in this size, but mostly we're just gonna chop it in half, dice it up.
I love the feeling of like trying to take the Spam out of the container. It's like, I don't know, just
noise.
hearing that like
noise, bro. The most hilarious.
So cut it in half. This is going to seem like a weird question. Cut it in half this way?
Yes.
Yes, right? Okay.
Cut it in half and then make some big chunks out of it. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to blend it all up into a cream.
Perfect. So I'm cutting it right now into different cubes to make it a little bit easier for the processor. Perfect.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to take some pimentos. These are just like these beautiful red peppers that have been preserved, and they are just delicious. You are so familiar with them if you eat olives. Manzanita olives have a red pimento in the center. And we're going to add about a quarter cup of jarred or canned pimentos. But you need to reserve the juice. So don't add the juice. You're going to strain the pimentos and reserve the juice.
This is where I know this is probably not helpful, but like I'm a paper towel user, which environment, but it's helpful to have this just to like make sure you clean up every so often.
It's true. You know what? If you are a paper towel user, which you always have to have some paper towels in the house. I mean, we do, but I want to turn you on to Swedish dishcloths. These are most amazing. These will soak up like a half gallon of water. That might be an exaggeration. But this little thing is insane. So get yourself some Swedish dishcloths because you will be saving so much money because paper towels are expensive.
They are expensive. Ooh, I'll just note that I opened up the pimentos and it smells so rich and yummy.
Yum.
So putting that into my mixture too.
You better strain them. Make sure you don't put that liquid in there. We're going to do a quarter cup of that pimento strained. And you're going to reserve the juice. So if your mixture is too thick, we can loosen it up a little bit with that juice so we're not diluting flavor. Okay. And then we have Calabrian chile. It's an Italian chile. It's not Puerto Rican, but that's okay. We're cooking Spanglish cookbook. I'm doing a full tablespoon because I like spicy. If you're heat averse, which I doubt you are,
as not that much. I love a little spice every so often, so why not? But
the Puerto Ricans, we don't really love heat too much. We have like bique, and it's this not a very spicy vinegar-based sauce. We're not really built for heat, but I do love heat. So I'm putting a whole tablespoon of Calabrian chile and call it a day. It's just going to add some smokiness to this mixture. And just a really beautiful heat that travels across your palate. Delish. Let's go.
Okay, let me make sure I've got tapas on the things that they need to be on, the little jars.
See, now it's time to get the stuff out of our eggs. We're going to take the yellow part out of our eggs. So you're going to take the egg and you're going to cut it along the longest part, tip to tip. And you'll see that these are perfectly in the middle because I rested the carton on its side before boiling them. Then you're just going to take a spoon and take the yellow out of the egg. And we're going to take the yellow from these eggs, the yolk.
And add it to our mixture.
Yes, and we're going to add it to the mixture.
Love it.
One of the things that we need to do, though, before you add it to the mixture is blend it. And then let's see, you did 6 eggs, right?
I did 4 eggs.
You did 4 eggs, okay. So we will cut the recipe into a quarter. So we're going to blend this, and then we're just going to use a quarter of what you made for the filling. And the rest you can use for sandwichitos de mezcla.
Perfect.
Yes, let's go. Okay, so while we cut these eggs, I want to ask if you've ever made deviled eggs before.
No, it's honestly just been my tia Evelyn. She knew what she wanted to do, would make them for the Easters. But it is something I have started to like more and more as I've gotten older. And it's interesting how, like, once you start getting into your palate, going into your palate, the kind of things that when you were younger, you would always say, like, oh, that's not for me. And now it's totally for me. Like, deviled eggs is one of those things. Brussels sprouts is one of those things for me. Just random culinary items that maybe I just wrote off for some particular reason. Now I really love. And I think it's like especially because it's one of the ingredients in the recipe, but the paprika, just that, like, ooh, that spice of the paprika kind of hitting your mouth. That's why I really love deviled eggs.
I really felt you when you said Brussels sprouts, puppy, because I used to cry. I'd be like, please don't make me eat these Brussels sprouts. Granted, my mother boiled the ever-living life out of Brussels sprouts. But I do love a roasted Brussels sprout. By the way, if your knife is sticking to the yellow, you can add a little oil to the blade of your knife so it doesn't stick.
Okay.
But the yolk should pop right out. You just have to be very gentle with it.
I'm quickly doing another egg just so I can make sure that I get this closer to the number that we had originally said.
Yeah, 6. Let's do 6, and that way we can use a third.
Okay.
A third of the mixture. And then we can also make sandwichitos de mezcla, pero I don't have bread here because I'm doing a no-carb diet.
Oh, good luck. I feel like I'm such a carbaholic. I want to, I hope that goes well for you.
I don't think it will, Papo. It's like my second day, and I keep looking at the Snickers bars.
Snickers are so worth it, though.
So worth it. I'm like, this would be delicious. It doesn't have that many carbs.
No. Honestly, especially because we're having this conversation during a component of Lent, especially if you're somebody who follows that religiously. It doesn't count during Lent.
Thank you. It's,
oh
my God, it is Lent. This is why I make extra eggs, because sometimes you're going to fuss up. And that's okay. You just mash those into an egg salad and you're good.
I like that that's also a component of cooking, is just the improvisation of it. It's just really trying to find, like, if it doesn't necessarily go or you have a little bit extra, what can you make? And I think making the sandwiches, making something else, making egg salad, perfect way to do that.
Really, and even if you mess these up and the eggs are all messed up, and you're like, I can't, these are not going to look well. You can literally chop them up, mix them into the mezcla filling that we're making, and make this mezcla egg salad sandwich. There's always a way.
There's always a way, so long as you have the right attitude towards making it.
See, And that attitude is F it.
So I'm almost at the end of doing this last egg, which again, maybe as time has gone on and it's sat in the water, it's made it so much easier to peel it off.
Yeah. That's why you got to rest them a little bit. We didn't have the time to rest them, but if you let them rest in that water for like 15 minutes, it is so easy to peel them. I don't know what it is. I'm not a science person, but it works.
Okay, perfect. So I have my 6 eggs. I promise they're here. The chopping thing that I've been using is a little bit of a mess, but eggs are cut, 6 of them. I do have the mixture in the processor, as you mentioned. Are we blending this before we add anything?
No, so what I want you to do is yes, we are. What I want you to do is blend the mixture before we add the eggs, because we did a full recipe and we were going to use like 16 or 18 eggs, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to blend this, and then we're only going to use a third of it because we use 6 eggs, right?
Yes.
So get ready for this.
Okay.
You are going to want to mix it up a little once you start blending.
What is this?
While you're doing that, I'll tell you the story of how I set fire to Gordon Ramsay's kitchen. Okay.
Yes, please do. Which, again, this was, when you appeared on the show, you made it to the top 5, was one of the ways that folks were able to find out who you were on a national stage.
Yes. So I had been tasked, we had all been tasked with putting together Gordon Ramsay's favorite childhood dessert. And again, I was not really very experienced in a professional kitchen. And I was not used to those fancy gas stoves they have in professional kitchens, which the pilot light always remains on. So I had been mixing and mixing, and everything was a mess, because when you first start cooking, everything is a mess. You forget to clean up after yourself. Your cutting board's a mess. I had stuff everywhere. And I was like, I'm going to have to build this dessert in the pantry. So I put the bowls that were in my way on top of the stove, and I ran to the pantry with the other bowls. Did you get it? Did it work?
I did. Let me see if it works. Oh, there we go.
And I hear Gordon Ramsay going, Monty, what the F? I'm running. I was so broke then, bro, that the shoes I was wearing were like 6 years old. They were 6-year-old Chucks with no tread left on them. And I ran out of the pantry because he was yelling my name. And they were so old that I stopped, but the shoes did not stop. And so,
oh no.
He was like, oh, he took me like this, and he's like, Monty, what the F is that? And he pointed to my stove where I had placed this rubber-bottomed bowl on the stove that was still on because of the pilot light. And there was like a flame, like 4 feet tall. And I was like, Chef, that is a bowl on fire, because I'm a very literal person. And he just started laughing. He was like, forget it. Like, you're a mess. You're a mess.
Like, no, you don't understand. I'm just going to keep chopping this because it still needs to blend a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got the blend going.
Perfect. So now that it's nice and blended, we're going to just take 2/3 of it out and store it for a different time. You can make this de mezcla with this mixture. You don't really have to add too much salt to it because Spam is salty. So
yes it is.
Salt it, taste it, and if you want salt in it, do you. So let's just remove 2/3 of this and leave 1/3. I have a little bowl ready here. And I'm taking out 2/3 of it.
And again, just for those who are watching, we're doing this because out of the 18 that this recipe calls for, we use 6 eggs, so a third of what exactly is mentioned. So I'm also removing 2/3 from the mixture that I've blended up.
Okay, so then we're gonna take our egg yolks. Oh, I'll wait for you to be ready. Look at me rushing you.
No, I got it. I think this is about a third that's left.
Nice. So with that third, you're just gonna take your egg yolks and you're gonna add them to your blender for those 6 egg yolks.
Let me remove them using the spoon that I have here.
Mm-hmm. And now we're just gonna blend. I'm gonna mix it up a little bit to incorporate and really dig into that bottom of that blender base.
Okay, so I've also added the yolk in here.
Perfect. Now we're just gonna blend it up until very silky smooth. And if you feel like your blender isn't really taking it, the mixture is maybe a little too thick, that's when you add a little bit of reserved pimento juice.
I think that's what I do have to do. I will add a little bit of the juice just to kind of guide it a bit more.
You're gonna do it teaspoon by teaspoon though. Don't go berserker range, Jorge.
Okay, I'll use my little teaspoon.
Okay, this looks pretty good. How's yours looking?
Mine's looking really good. I'm quite proud of myself. I'll say that the eggs, maybe not so much. The actual eggs themselves, I think I kind of in keeping with some of the recipe, want to make sure that you either do it ahead of time or give themselves a chance to. Is blanch the right word? What's the word that you when you put it in the water, in the ice water?
In the ice bath? I mean, you don't really blanch them, but you are going to give them an ice bath. When you blanch something, it's really to preserve the color. So, yeah,
okay.
but it's the exact same technique. You're just putting them in an ice bath, you know?
Okay. One of those the more you know situations.
Go ahead.
No, so I just if you want to walk us through now that we've blended up the mixture.
Yes. So you always want to taste it and make sure it's exactly how you like it. Mm. So yummy. I like to add a little dusting of smoky paprika in there, just a little bit, and kind of mix it up last minute.
Okay, just in case.
I mean, you can dust it on top as well.
Oh, I feel like it needs to go into the actual mixture here. Like,
yeah, I'd be like,
let's be kind.
Go for it. Let's go, smoky paprika.
This picture is really good, and it honestly does remind me of being 10 years old.
Right. So now I have a piping bag, but if you don't have a piping bag, you can just take like a little sandwich plastic bag.
A little Ziploc bag that I can cut here on the corner.
Exactly. And you're gonna go
so
ahead.
I grew up with a father who would design cakes and like make a lot of cakes for the family. And if we didn't have a piping bag, my dad would use a Ziploc bag and then cut the little corner off.
Genius.
See, it's a family tradition here.
That's beautiful. One of the things I like to do when I have to fill the bag and I don't want to get stuff everywhere is I put the bag inside of a glass and just turn it out with the glass like this. And then that way I can fill the glass without getting mixture all over.
So I'm putting the mixture also in my little makeshift bag.
I love having this in my arsenal. It's just a little rubber spatula with a nice straight edge to it. And that will help just clear it all out. So you're not wasting anything because let's keep it real. Things expensive now, Jorge.
Things are expensive, and unfortunately, there are a lot of missed opportunities to hold on to the food and the ingredients that we use. So I do appreciate, like, as much as you got, hold on to it.
Yes. You got to do like Bon Jovi and hold on to what you got.
I love a good 80s rock moment.
80s references at you, okay?
That's perfect. That's exactly up my alley. I am never going to be upset about that.
Then we're going to take our bag. Look how nice and clean it is.
This is my little version. I think it works.
We're going to twist it. And then we're going to cover it, and we're going to go like this. But make sure that you don't get it all over you like I just did.
I love this little carrot look.
Let's go, carrots. And now we simply pipe it into the egg.
Okay, here's my egg. Look at me with my first mezcla deviled egg.
I love you. You're the first person I know to make this recipe. This is Xorje's mezcla deviled eggs.
Yes, and also, I love the little tip that you have that makes that design. Mine is a bit more of a little soft serve, giving you soft serve, but still very much.
Still delicious.
Mm-hmm.
So easy.
And excited that folks at Cocina Media are going to be those who follow us and watch the stuff that we do are going to be able to see us make this together.
I'm excited too. It's just one of these recipes that is exactly like all of the other recipes in my book. I take Puerto Rican ingredients and Puerto Rican techniques, and I mash them into continental American favorites. I don't know if you enjoy morcilla, which is a blood sausage.
That is one of the recipes that I'm most excited to make. Can you tell our viewers about what they can expect with that particular one?
So morcilla is a blood sausage in Puerto Rico. We make it also with rice, but the Mexican morcilla, which is probably more readily available in the continental U.S., is going to have no rice in it. But no matter if we have the Mexican style or the Puerto Rican style, I've got a great recipe for you in the book to make sloppy joe mix out of it. It makes a delicious sloppy joe. I know it's good because I made it in Puerto Rico for this huge festival for like 1,200 people, and all the chefs kept coming up to my table and taking them. And Andrew Zimmern, who is the love of my life, like I love that man so much, he's the sweetest person, was like, this is the best. Like, hello, Andrew Zimmern tells you that. I know, you're like, I did well.
You're like, thank you.
See,
I love it. Monti's versions, my version, not as pretty, but still wonderful first attempt on my part.
Now look, you can dust it with a little paprika if you like up top, but it always gives me anxiety because it's just so hard. I'm such a perfectionist and I always get paprika all over everything. So I like to put the paprika in the palm of my hand and then use my fingers to direct it instead of literally sprinkling it on top.
Instead of me just like...
Yeah, because then you're going to get it everywhere. And then another thing that you can do is if you want, you can garnish it with chopped chives, which is traditional for deviled eggs that are Southern style. One of the things I also love to do, which is going to sound crazy, is put caviar on top.
Ooh, she's fancy.
Yeah, it's called a high-low recipe. And believe it or not, Spam and caviar go really well together. They're both salty and have a lot of umami, and it just works. It's crazy, but it works. So I have a little caviar here. I wish you were here, mijo.
Oh my God. Save one, put it in the freezer, put it somewhere that it's preserved.
We're just going to put a little caviar.
Fantastic.
Nita.
Well, while you're putting the caviar, I do want to remind folks again. So the book is called Spanglish. This is one of the recipes. It's called Mezcla Deviled Eggs. The book itself from Simon & Schuster will be available on May 19th. Is available for pre-order now. But there are all sorts of other ways that you can encounter Monti in the wilds of culinary life. Not only with the work that she's doing on her not her podcast, but the stuff that she's doing on her social media pages. She also has a very popular Substack called Recalled, where she lets people know, hi, maybe you should be a little wary of some of the stuff that you're encountering in the shelves at the grocery store, just to make sure that you know that you're operating with safe ingredients. And yeah, it's probably on your TV screen somewhere right now. So definitely find opportunities to bring Monti Carlo into your life as best you can.
God bless you for knowing about my Substack. That's my big mama bear movement. Like, I get, because I'm such a nerd, Jorge. You know, so when all the recalls come in, I realize like none of my friends knew about them. So then I started making it for my friends, and then it just blew up. But yeah, there's all sorts of recalls happening as we speak.
Yep, definitely helpful. So definitely make sure that you go to Monti's social pages. Which, Monti, how can people follow you and find more information about Spanglish, where to get it, and just keep up with you?
You can go to my Instagram page. It's at the Monti with an I, Carlo, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on all of the things. The Monti Carlo is also my website. And in any of those areas, you can, on any of those platforms, you can get the link to purchase the book. It goes straight to the Simon & Schuster page, and you can pick any of your favorite place to buy books, whatever it is. They've got it. I can't even believe those are the words that are coming out of my mouth right now. But it's true. And I really hope that you check it out, especially if you are in the diaspora and you are a Latino, and you want to try some things that maybe make you finally feel at home.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you for making me feel at home in my home, even though we're not physically with each other. I feel like it's only appropriate that we end our Cook the Book segment taking a bite out of one of our Mezcla Deviled Eggs creations.
Cheers, Papi.
Salud. So well done. Oh, high five.
I love you. You're the best. Thank you for being
here. This was such a wonderful, this was so much fun. You made this feel like I could do this all the time. Like you really put me at ease, considering there's quite a bit of a mess in front of me, but you know what? 'Tis the nature of how we do things.
Listen, you're great, okay? I just want you to know that I had so much fun talking to you. Thank you for making me feel comfortable. Even though I am a TV personality, I do have a lot of anxiety. So I get a little anxious, and I was a little anxious, but thank you for making me feel so welcome and for knowing so much of my story and for following me. That is just the coolest. And I really appreciate that you know about the book and like are gonna read the book. That's just the coolest. And I hope when you do get it that you tell me what you think, okay?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm making these morcilla sloppy joes as soon as I can, because it's definitely one of the things that stood out to me.
Yes, do it, Papa. It's going to be good.
I know.
And Jorge, thank you for bringing me to Cocina. It's my first stop for the book tour, and I think it's going to be my favorite one. Thank you.